answer. But the first question for the evening, what 3 skills from your experience make you the best candidate for SU President? Whilst they're prepared, remember you can submit your questions online if there's things you want to ask all 3 candidates after what you've heard. So you scan the QR code and submit them through the MS form if you want to. Good.
I think the 3 skills I would say is communications, being professional, and attention to details in terms of daily operations. The first one, communications, I think this is what I do. I do media. I'm a media person. I know how to promote things. And I really think, I'm not trying to make media too important, but I think it's such a great pathway that we can use to share ideas and gain engagement, because there's so many things that are happening in the SU that are not known to everyone, not known to the clubs, not known to someone who's outside of NWB. So I think I'm really good at communicating stuff. And then for professional, I think, as I said, being able to build and maintain professional relationships with the staff, the current staff, the clubs, and sponsorships, external sponsorships that are not as familiar with the university environment. I think that's very important, and I've gained the skills to do that, to communicate and to work professionally as well. I've worked as creative content assistant and also a freelance photographer, which requires a crazy amount of dealing with people. And then the last one is attention to details. I don't want to promise big goals, and I'm aware that the daily operations is what makes your sporting experience smooth. Everything on top is extra, and I think would be great improvements. But I think I'm really, if you go on and check my social media, you will see Martin called me a workhorse, and I think I'm pretty dedicated and I'm a workaholic, and I really like to get my stuff done. So I think attention to details is amazing.
Firstly, I'd say I'm a very dedicated and passionate person. This has been reflected, I would say, by the growth of Ramblers Club. From a small club, very unestablished, to a club, like I said before, competing in parks, weekly socials, we're very well established. Secondly, I'm a very organised person. I love admin, reflected by my role as secretary. Thirdly, I think most importantly, I'm a big people person. I'm good at communication, I'm very chatty and very sociable, and I'm a good representation of the university.
Thank you. Sorry. So the first skill that I think I would be able to bring as your sports union president is advocacy. As someone that's been part of a club for the last 3 years, I really feel like I know what clubs want, and I feel like really be able to bridge that gap between clubs and the sports union. Secondly, with events, delivery and sponsorship, I have worked with really large brands such as Red Bull and Monster throughout my time on the club, and I really feel that I know how to get the best out of corporate sponsorship for both the sports union and to help clubs get more out of sponsorships for themselves. And finally, the last skill that I will bring to the role is, as coined by my flatmates, I have border collie energy. I'm always looking for the next job or task, and I promise to get everything done as on time as I possibly can. And I've shown this through my role as secretary for the Snow Sports Club and being able to organise an international trip for 900 people.
Thank you. So the next question we've had submitted, again to all 3 candidates. So based on your experience, what is the role of the sports union? And if you were president, what does success look like? So Josie's going to kick us off this time, and then we'll move to Georgia, and then finish up with Con.
providing support so that clubs can function well, have everything they need, and can problem solve so they can grow the best they can so we can produce the best experience for students here. I think success of a good president, again, was it? Number one, I think, is good connection with clubs. I think having a good relationship with club committees and club presidents will build good communication and further the growth of clubs. And secondly, I think delivering on initiatives that are promised. I think by focusing on maybe 2 of the manifesto pledges, and it will lead, what's the word I'm looking for? Will promise on your delivery. Yeah.
I think it's kind of going to be similar what we're all going to say. So for me, the role of the sports union is to support the clubs within it so that all of you guys can have the best university experience possible. And for me, as sports union president, success would look like upholding what the SU strives to do. So as my role as current club president, and for me, sport more generally, is all about the maximum amount of fun and ensuring that my committees and my clubs and the athletes within those clubs are having fun. If you're a top performance athlete that's enjoying your sport, loving training, you're going to perform better. And if you're just there for recreational or intramural sport, just is the wrong word, I apologise for that. But if you are there for intramural or recreational sport, fun is also going to be the biggest part of that. So if I can set my committees up for success through my organisational skills and all that other stuff, and so that you guys can have the most fun possible, then I will have been a successful president.
Am I allowed to ask for raise of hand? No. Okay. Well, imaginary. Well, does everyone know the difference between Edinburgh Sport and the SU? I don't think you do. Anyways, sorry, but I think the thing is, I think SU to me is student-based and it's club-based. Edinburgh Sport is everything Pleasance and everything performance sport and corporate. And I think that's a very important thing to note and to be aware of, because SU is everything student and we're a charity body and we have a different budget. And so your goal is purely student happiness, students' daily sporting experience. We're not really, performance sport is a huge part, but I can see how our focus has been on performance sport for so long that the club sports, intramural sports, recreational sports, where are those sports? And so I think for SU, we really need to pay attention to that and make sure that we are advocating for that part, because performance sport has their Edinburgh Sport, and that's two different things. Anyways, so that's being that. And the role of president, I think I want to bridge the gap between, I think the role of president should be the gap, the bridge between the SU and the SU and the students. Yes, that's what I mean. The SU and the clubs. Yes. So a lot of miscommunications, or sometimes we wonder, why are we paying so much for Pleasance Gym? Why are we paying all the membership prices? And that question got resolved by Liv coming up and explain why are we, where does the money go? And I think as president, it's genuinely just to communicate how the decisions are made and make sure that the clubs are aware and having a say in everything. And as president, the job is to communicate that, pass it on, and also get the feedback. And success for me, it looks like getting ahead, because I've been part of the SU and I know the calendars, I know which day is where, and then when do we need to get started and get preparing. So I think success to me is really getting ahead. I don't want to just, because we did so much promotion and engagement stuff very last minute this year, and I want to make that better. If I know what's going to happen and I have experience for that, I want to get ahead and plan that. And yeah, that's it for me.
We'll run this way this time, because Georgia's going to kick us off with this question. And then we're going to move to Connie, and then we'll finish up with Josie this time. So if you were elected, you would serve as the SU president in our 160th year. How would you celebrate or mark this milestone?
So I would be really excited to take on the role as SU president in the 160th year. I've recently been president of snow sports during the 90th anniversary of skiing in Edinburgh, and so I really feel I've got experience to take on this big milestone. Particular thing that we've worked on is branding and exploring our history. For example, I found an old collection of library pictures in the library that had pictures from a trip that we made to Scotland and the Dolomites in 1936 and 1960. So I'd really love to explore the sports union's history, broadcast that on all of our social media, and ensure consistent branding that really celebrates that 160th anniversary across the year.
Thank you very much. Connie, we'll come to you next. That's good. Go for it.
I am so excited. I did not know that it's going to be an anniversary, and I'm just happy to hear that we're going to celebrate, and it's going to be a big party, I guess. Well, branding, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I shouldn't do that. But branding is a great idea, but I think my focus would be team spirit. I don't know if we're launching a new mascot next year. Oh my god. That would be perfect. Well, perfect match. Yeah, I think I really want Team Edinburgh to have a big team spirit. And I think that would be a great starting point. I just want everyone to gather together and be excited and to celebrate. And I honestly do not know how we can get everyone excited. That has been my problem forever. However, I think the launch of the big mascot, I want to link it together. I think that would get everyone excited. But yeah, it's general direction.
Okay, so guys, this goes really well with the manifesto point of club collaboration across sports. I'm envisioning Saturday or a Sunday, everyone has a day off, we all play the sport that we love, we all compete against each other, we all go out in the evening, everybody meets at the same club, we all have a great time, big celebration, big social media coverage, and just everyone joins in and has fun and plays sports for the day.
Okay, so we've been pretty kind so far, so we're going to make these a little bit more challenging this time. So we're back to the kind of first setup, so Connie's going to kick things off. So given the need for university to make financial savings, as SU President, how would you engage with the university senior leadership to ensure sport remains a priority on the university's agenda?
Go for it, Ronnie.
Edinburgh Sport is an incredible community. We are huge. From being on exec, I've heard from a lot of different organizations questioning why do we have so much budgeting, and why, because we are huge and we have 8,000, I think that's the number, I'm not sure, it might be growing, 8,000 students who are actively doing sports, and that shows the impact of Edinburgh Sport. And the university needs to be aware of that, and I'm going to make them aware of that. And the impact of sport on health, on mental health, on your studyings, on your uni experience. It made my uni experience, and honestly a lot of yours as well. I'm pretty sure you will agree with me. That is where I made my friends, is where I got through all my studies, and so it's just an impactful community, and it's just to make sure that we communicate that to the uni and make sure that they're aware of the growing that we've had. And also, Edinburgh Uni Sport is growing in terms of membership, in terms of intramural sport. It's almost getting out of capacity for intramural sports, and that's a crazy thing as well. And yeah, just celebrating our success, and the data for the past year is incredible. So I'm just proud, and I want to carry that.
Thank you. Josie?
Okay, I would focus on highlighting to Central University the importance of the sports union. I would do this by showing this beyond just our Bucks points. I would do it through reflective social media presence, showing the increased membership numbers, and showing how our new initiatives and schemes, like recent Girls' Night In the gym, I would show how all these little things build up and build a community, and this is all evidence to Central University that we're growing and we have an impactful experience to the student. I would also be very on it with the planning submission, which Liv is currently writing, and it would be very well written.
I think with this one, there's sort of two strands that I would go down. Firstly, looking at how it's good for the students, and secondly, looking at how it's good for the university as an institution. So in terms of students, I would definitely try and stress to these committees that I'd be sitting on the importance of sport for student well-being, how good it is for your mental health, your social circles, and all of those benefits that sports gives you beyond your bucks points. Secondly, I would talk about how sport is a really attractive thing for people that have not yet arrived at the university. Many offer holders will choose to come to Edinburgh because of our sporting community, and that gives us a more vibrant community and a bigger university beyond just sport, which is something that I think the university would be really interested in order to keep the sports union funding high.
Okay, so we're going to come to Josie first this time, followed by Georgia, and then Connie. So in August 2025, it saw the launch of USU's Code of Conduct. As SU President, how would you proactively communicate and to establish a consistent culture of expected behaviours for all SU members? Yeah, I'll repeat that one because it was long. So as you all know, the new Code of Conduct launched in August of this year. So as the SU President, how would you proactively communicate to establish a consistent culture of expected behaviours of all SU members?
Yeah.
Go for it.
I think this links well to again my manifesto point of increasing the communication with clubs and club committees. I think we need to reassess training week so people know the purpose of the SU and what things like the new constitution would stand for. I think also improved communication could be promoted by another one-to-one with the SU president in semester 2, and using the executive committee to increase the one-to-one connections we have to clubs, so clubs understand what is being expected and the support that we can offer so the constitution is well met.
I think for me, one of the important things about the Code of Conduct and the Constitution and all of these big documents is making sure that they're accessible and not scary. Sometimes I feel like that for clubs, there's this element of fear around the SU because of all of the legislation. And so I'd love to make the Code of Conduct more accessible. Maybe that's by making a shortened version that people can read at club trainings. I also think utilising clubs' wellbeing and inclusion officers is really important. When I was wellbeing, I learned the Code of Conduct really well, and being able to bring that up in committee meetings really helped me to kind of make my case and change the culture within my club. And so I think increased training for wellbeing and inclusion officers and supporting them throughout their year is something really important.
I think for me, my biggest point is to allow the clubs to raise issues. To be proactive, I think wellbeing committee and wellbeing, so our VP inclusion, wellbeing officer, and the club wellbeing officers should not just be someone who, as it is now, it seems like a lot of them is, when someone has a problem, you come to me and I will talk to you and I will signpost you. That shouldn't be how it works. You need to be proactively coming up with events that are wellbeing events. I love one of Ross, my athletics, but is also your friend. He does a Sunday morning run and a coffee. That's just cute, and you hang out together. And you don't need to be. Wellbeing doesn't have to be psychology. Like I study psychology. It doesn't have to be mental health. Like it could be happy, and we all enjoy the sun together. And I think we need to be proactive, and that involves the exact to be present and to be visible, which is one of my manifesto. I think in order to make the clubs talk to you and to be willing to talk to you, you need to be among them, and they need to know your face. So that's a huge one. And then the other one is active bystander training, which is we already have, and it is mandatory for committee training. Committee to have, I think, 2 people on committee, or 3 to have that training. I think I want to keep that going. I shouldn't be 3. I don't think it should be 3 only. It should be every single person who's on committee. It's a human skill, and it's an important skill to have. And I think why that training is helpful is because it forces the committee members to actually sit down and learn what you can do. Because a lot of times we all mean well, but we don't know what we can do when there are things coming up and rising. I don't know what if I'm not trained, if my friend comes to me and distressed about a very serious issue, I don't want to be someone who dismiss it and just very not seriously. I want to be capable, and I want to know that I'm capable to do that. And I think every committee member should be able to do that. And I think that would really help that we create a very consistent culture of expected behavior.
Thank you, Brian. Okay, we're going to start with Georgia this time. So this one's come in from a few different clubs actually, but Gaelic football and underwater hockey most notably. How would you advocate for and support smaller clubs?
Okay, so I think in terms of advocating and support, something that I have always been a big fan of through my time on my own committee is really open and honest communication. I'm not going to lie to you and say that I know all of the rules of underwater hockey, because I don't, but I'm super open to learning about every single one of the sports that is sat in this hall today, particularly through the summer one-to-ones that you have. I want to learn more about not just your club and your committee, but your sport and what really works for you, so that I can then advocate for you in the best way. In addition, I'd love to work a little bit more with our social media to really make sure that all of those smaller clubs are present on our social media and can grow as big as possible. Something I really wanted to do when I was secretary, which Bucks told me I wasn't allowed to do, but I would also love to sit on that committee and change that, but that's another thing, is stream our big air finals at British Dry Slip Champs. I'm sure lots of you have all been watching the Winter Olympics and how randomly you're getting into things like luge or curling and you've never watched that before. And so I think there's really something to be said about putting these clubs on social media, streaming their fixtures on UOV TV, and using all of the structures that the sports union has to support all of those smaller clubs and niche sports.
It's Connie, then Josie.
This is actually one of my main media manifesto last year when I ran for media officer. I want to support the niche and smaller clubs. However, as I went on exec this year and I started trying to do that, I realized there's a huge challenge. We have 71 sports clubs plus intramural sports. There are just so many people that we can cover, and so I came up with a solution that we created, the media support system, that people can come to us and require help, or so basically asking for a photographer to go down to the games and cover the games, for example, or if they have any video ideas, they can come to us and we can make sure that they have the visibility that they deserve on our official accounts and everything. So I think that's a step that I want to keep for sure. And also, I think on exec, I also get to try curling. I'm not sure you've seen the video. I had so much fun. I want to do it again, I can't lie. And I've also reached out to clubs like archery, gliding, clay pigeon. I don't know about gliding, of me doing that myself, but I think I want to try all of them, and they just seem it seems very fun. But the real problem for president is how we can make sure that we don't overpromise and we don't say, oh, we're going to care for all the niche clubs, but who's niche and who's not. So I want to give the opportunity for the we have to work together, and I only have that much, as president, you only have that much time. So I want to open the door for the smaller clubs, and for example, on the media request form. So through things like that, it's a bit more mutual. Then we can make sure that things are actually getting done, rather than saying, oh, I want to promote gliding, but I never do it in the end, for example. And then also, sorry, I will shut soon. For my struggle, I also think it's really important to sit down with the clubs and know what their struggles are. For example, we have a lot of clubs that are facing getting demoting because they are, for example, North American sport that has a huge audience somewhere else but not in Edinburgh, and how can we merge them together somehow, or have a collab and do things like that to help all the clubs all together, if that makes sense. And also for sorry, I forgot. I'm just going to end it there. Thank you very much.
Okay, I love this question coming from Ramblers. Firstly, I think Connie's done a really great job this year with having the social media form where you can request media access. However, I think we need to go further. I think there needs to be, we represent Bucks Wednesday, but I think there needs to be representation across the week of a diversity of competitions and an increased diversity of sport. Secondly, I think there needs to be just as much support for associate clubs as there is for full member clubs. Small clubs with 20 members struggling to meet the limit have just as much impact as those big clubs. They reach people who might not have a so obvious space in sport, and I think that is so important to recognise. Lastly, as I mentioned in my manifesto, I think a year-round taster session each week where clubs can sign up and put on a taster session for clubs, so it removes the barrier of being scared to join a new club, beyond just welcome week. Yeah.
Thank you. We have actually had a lot of questions submitted, so we'll try and keep to sort of 30 seconds to a minute as we go through the answers. But the next question comes from Shinty. So what do you think you will gain from the role, and how will it help your personal growth? So we're going to start with you this time, Connie.
I can't think too much about this question because it's too philosophical. I was talking to my mom about this, and I was like, I know so much about media, but I don't think I'm confident in other aspects. And then she was like, well, that's literally where you learn stuff, and you don't have to be ready to be a president. And I think what I want to gain is, I know myself, I would never learn finance if I'm not president, trust, but I think I need the skills, and I think for my personal gain, and what I want to gain from this role, I just want to learn the sports management, and the whole operation system, because I want to work in sports. I know I want to work in sports, 100%. So I think it's just so valuable. It's like I keep getting that word wrong. Springboard. Do you call it springboard or jumping board? Whatever that is. It's like a little hoop, to get into sports. I think that's why I think it's perfect for me. And I know it's going to be tedious in the way of there's so much involved, there's so much logistics involved, but that's also what's valuable because you really don't get to manage a huge charity like this. And that's just the perfect opportunity.
Yeah, like Connie said, this is a huge charity. I think this is such a special opportunity. I think mainly this would just really increase my confidence and communication skills. I think being able to work and collaborate with 71 different clubs, I think is such an interesting experience. And yeah, I just think this would be amazing. And job market is quite rough.
As these guys have said, I think it's a really incredible opportunity with so many different aspects that are amazing. One particular part of the job description that excites me, because I'm a really boring politics student, is the policy development part of it. I've worked quite a lot on policy documents and all that sort of stuff, and I would love to kind of really get in that part of the SU. But aside from that, I also feel this is a really good opportunity to gain knowledge. I am just a sport nerd, and I will watch the luge, the whole thing, and the curling, and whatever's after. And I'm truly passionate about every single sport, and I'd love to just gain the opportunity to learn as much about as many of them as physically possible.
Thank you. Okay, the next question comes from badminton, so it's similar vein to the kind of finance question. But we all know capacity is a challenge in terms of physical facility space, and we surpass the demand that there is collectively as an SU. So what tactics would you deploy to advocate for the need to build more facilities and invest in facilities for sport?
Josie, we're going to come to you first this time.
Okay. Firstly, I think advocating and showing Central University the impact we have as a sports union would firstly address maintaining funds that we're getting. Secondly, I think being really positive on initiatives such as the increase of paddle courts on the meadows would really promote facilities. I think also reaching out to other sports facilities offered across Edinburgh would give us more space and opportunity to branch out with and connect with other clubs.
I think this is, as you said, very similar to the finance question. So again, I think I would talk about the importance of the well-being of students and having access to space, and how important regular training sessions are also for your competitive teams and for making sure that we can do well at Bucks and all of that sort of stuff. I think it's important when you're sitting on committees to think about the way that we're talking, and for me that would always be about framing this as an opportunity for the university rather than a cost, a way we can expand, whether that's by building our own new facilities or using other ones that are available in the community, and how that will develop our relationships with the wider community and also be able to grow our sport. So really being able to frame these things that might not be super popular as an opportunity.
So we all know that capacity is a challenge within our facilities. So what tactics would you deploy to advocate for the need to build or invest in facilities?
I think one big word that came to me is realistic. I think, again, timetabling issues has been a forever problem, and I want to make sure that it's addressed, but also not crazy optimistic. For example, I think timetabling has been a taboo, almost like creating new facilities, like why does a university need so much more buildings, and how do we, the funding, like why does sports get more funding or when there are already so many buildings. However, I think it's important to realize that they're not the same budget, and it's important to communicate that to the clubs as well, and to make sure that the clubs knows how the decisions are made. And then again, back to timetabling, it feels like it's been a taboo problem for so long, and badminton probably has a problem of they don't have enough court time as their membership goes up, but their timetabling has been the same for the past years. I think it's been a problem that I've noticed since I've been on committee, and I've been wanting to address that, but it seems like every time I bring it up, it seems like, no, it's never going to change. No, I think I want it to change, and I think, but it's not something that I can do now. So maybe go for me for president, and I'll get that fixed. Anyways, the other one is though, I want to mention that again, back to realistic. I'm not saying that I don't think it's possible, and I just want to leave it. I think we need to help more, rather than asking the university to build more badminton courts in Edinburgh, which has limited space. I think another thing we can do is to advocate for the badminton club, for example, to work with Meadowbank. As athletics, we rent the track at Meadowbank consistently, and we figured out, it took me years. It's still a problem, but it took us years, and we now currently have a plan that works for the club, for the Edinburgh AC, which is the local athletics club, and doesn't cost too much money. So I think maybe as SU president, we can be a more powerful figure and a voice that can communicate with the external facilities to make sure that there is some kind of deal possible.
Thank you. So we're going to start with Georgia this time. So this one's coming from triathlon, so it's about learning from past experiences. So can you tell us about something that's that didn't quite go to plan when you were leading your club in the past, and how you approached the problem. Georgia, Connie, and Josie.
So something that went rather wrong in Snow Sports last year was that we actually undersold our ski trip, which is obviously a highlight in our club's calendar and a real big shame for the club going forward. And a way that we had to handle this was by massively reducing our budget for next year. And going into this year, I've been really mindful of this. So we had to reduce the kind of artists that we were able to bring on our ski trip this year, and we've generally had to work a bit more of a constrained budget. We haven't been able to fund Learn in a Day as much as I would have liked to, and I think that really shows my ability to work to change finances based off the current budget situation that you're in, and if something goes awry, being able to refinance and being able to still put on everything and maximise student experience even with a bit more of a limited budget.
I want to use my example as a media officer, which is where I lead a team of from 10 to 15 photographers, videographers, and I had big goals at the start of my year. I wanted to cover so much stuff, and I have requests from this club, that club, everyone want everything to cover, but the problem is, no one is volunteering to help. And I realized at first, I literally tried to go to every event because I feel bad when the club submits a request and we can't cover that. So I burned myself out. And that's really, it's not the way to go. And I quickly realized that if we want to sustain, if we want to be sustainable and to meet the growing demand of media requests, we need to do something, and we need to make sure that it's something that the media team wants to do as well. And so I sat down with them and had a meeting, and we communicated what works and what does not work, what meeting time works, what does not work as well, and also what they want to do as a creative person as well. And so we ended up having a lot more fun. For example, one of the photographer, she is from curling, and that's when we came up with the idea of, okay, we should work with your club, and then give curling a go session, for example. So I think we also try not to focus so much on Wednesday fixtures as well, because we realize that for example, Edinburgh Sport is already focusing on the main events every Wednesday. So we shifted our focus to more behind the scenes and where timings are more flexible, and I think that really works out. And we're starting to get a lot more support, and dying less now in terms of the workload. But I think it makes me realize that committee members and student volunteers are also just normal students who are dedicating their time to sports as well. So we need to make sure that's also an enjoyable experience for them. And I think changing that helped the media team come back a little bit.
In my second year as president of Rounders Club, there was quite a social dynamic shift in the club, and everything kept going quite wrong with the committee, and about 3 people dropped off committee. I was really stressed. I was having to do a lot of the roles of the other committee positions. There was a lot of conflict between people in the club. I reached out to the SU. It was kindly Maddie at the time, who was wellbeing officer. She provided me with amazing support. I followed her direction on what to do, and the principles of the SU. I replaced the roles that we missed, brought in a fantastic vice president, and we turned the club around. And this is why I'm so passionate about club committees getting good support from the sports union. I think it's one of the most fantastic roles the sports union plays, is the support that we provide to committees, and it filters down to the student experience. So yeah, that's why I'm so passionate about it.
You're making it tough for these candidates. There's a lot of questions coming in. So we will move back to Connie's going to answer this one first, followed by Josie, and then Georgia. We're on to the last sort of 3 questions. So for all candidates, and then we've got a couple directed at individuals just based on manifesto submissions. So this one's coming from Squash. So how does intramural feature in your plans for the year ahead?
intramural feature in my plan for the year ahead.
Yeah.
It's in my plan for this year, guys. Intramural, shamefully, I honestly didn't know much about intramural until I got on exec. Emma and Dan, amazing people who educated me. Sorry, no, I'm kidding. So working with them makes me realize how much potential intramural has as a sport. Actually, I think it's slowly getting bigger than the clubs sometimes. And I think it is very important to keep that momentum going. For example, this year we have the intramural All-Stars coming, and we're already having a lot of content prepared and promoting that. And I think it's, as I said, SU is a student body, it's a student community, and we're focusing on more of the fun sides of things, more of the playing sports and the student sporting experience. And I think intramural has to be a crucial part of that, and to keep the IM leagues going. Also, why are we not going down to IM leagues to watch, intramural fixtures? That's also something that we need to do. We can watch main event as well, sorry Mark. But also intramurals sports, we need somehow promoting a similar watch party thing for intramural games as well. I think that would be very fun. And All-Stars, it has to be big events and has to be as important as sports ball that everybody looks forward to, that involves the clubs and the intramural.
So currently, they're trying to increase the financial support for IM teams by moving them across to Bank of Scotland banking. And I think initiatives such as this would really increase the affiliation between IM and the sports union. Secondly, alongside media coverage of smaller clubs, I think more media recognition of game days and initiatives being promoted by IM would be really important. Things like Connie mentioned, such as IM All-Stars, are really great also for increasing the participation in IM. And yeah, I think just giving them just as much voice and recognition as main sports, because they're so important, like I said, for smaller clubs, people who don't automatically have a place in a high performance sport.
I'm a really big fan of IM. Snow Sports has tried to get an intramural team out, but we're always too late because it's just so popular. So I think that speaks volumes as to how important it is and how important it would be in my presidency as well. There's kind of two things that I would really love to do. I'd love to make IM branding stronger. I'd love to get fun uniforms and really encourage all of that sort of fun side of that element of sport. And as Josie just said, I think the financial thing is another big barrier within intramural sport, as it is with all sports. And I'd love to just increase knowledge of all of the grants that are available university-wide to students. So like student experience grants that clubs and teams can apply for. I know that mountaineering has benefited from student experience grants by being able to get new equipment, and Snow Sports has been able to buy back protectors through student experience grants as well. So pointing people towards the funding that's available through the university to really make sure that IM sport is accessible to everyone.
So we've had lots of follow-up questions on the support for smaller clubs and how you might approach that. So this question from cycling probably captures a lot of those follow-ups quite nicely. So cycling have shared that they obviously struggle to retain numbers throughout the winter when they've got bad weather, because cycling is largely also an outdoor sport. So how would the SU, if you were president, be able to help other clubs battle challenges like that they face, or barrier to participation for that club? So we're going to come to Josie first on this occasion.
I think this one simply comes down to providing good support for committee members, knowing what the barriers are that are costing clubs that kind of difficulties over periods such as winter's time, and working together as a team to problem solve those issues. So I think, yeah, just really good communication and good relations between the SU and committees.
Yeah, she.
I definitely feel for cycling. While you may want to go skiing in the Alps on a sunny day when there's snow, you really don't want to go to hill end when it's raining. So I definitely can understand and sympathise with the problem. Something that I think has worked really well for our clubs that I would love to help other clubs implement is sort of changing the style of your training sessions, maybe having a stress buster that's indoor based. So for example, in snow sports we have trampolining sessions where we go inside and you work on new tricks in a really safe environment. So I'd love to help clubs come up with inventive ways to change, to modify their training based off the weather. I also think in terms of working with committee members and stuff like that, spreading information about the benefits of being outside, even when it's cold and wet and raining and the winters in Edinburgh are long. I know that a few years ago, the Sports Union did a campaign about seasonal affective disorder, which I thought worked really well, and being able to spread that information out to your members and encouraging committees to kind of set that standard of, I'm going to turn up to training on a Tuesday, even when it's raining, because I know that it's going to make me feel better. And I think helping committees to do that then spreads to the wider clubs.
Coming from a country, I grew up in China, which is 35 degrees constantly, and then coming to Scotland, I know how the weather feels. And I think what really helped is a hot chocolate after the training. I don't want to suggest that because that feels like a very unserious suggestion, but say the well-being things, but also just because I don't push myself to go to trainings because I want to train. I push myself there because I know I can have a good time training with my friends. So I think just building a community and making sure that building a culture in the club that you fight the Scottish weather together, like period. You cycle through the wind together, but also a bit more practical stuff. Obviously, changing the schedule for athletics. We also have like a bit more in summer winter difference between the sessions. But also, are there any fundings that you can use to help you have the equipment that you need? Or I don't know, like I don't think I know enough about cycling to give you very specific advice at the moment. But I will suggest that to really just reach out to exec and to see the fundings, or it doesn't always have to be funding, but to different roles in exec, and yeah, have a sit down talk. That would be very helpful.
Okay, we're going to bring this section to a close with one final question from badminton. We're going to start with Georgia. So in one sentence, what sets you apart from other candidates?
Go for it, Georgia. You're ready.
One sentence, okay.
One sentence.
My deep in-club experience and delivering events on a large scale really allows me to take on this role and do the best for you guys, because I am one of you guys.
We'll be.
Well
We need someone who is experienced, who is not only experienced in leadership, but also experienced in SU, and I'm confident that I am the best person for this role.
I care about all clubs and I want them to have equal recognition.
Well done, thank you all, and thank you to everyone in the room that submitted questions. It really does just make it all for a little bit more exciting and a little bit more daunting experience